My name is Andrew Ward. I'm the quail, pheasant, and dove biologist here to talk to you today about our northern bobwhite reintroduction. We have a lot of things. Those of us that are passionate about wildlife have a lot of things to be excited about here in Pennsylvania, but our quail program especially this year because bobwhite are returning to Pennsylvania this March. We're entering into the next chapter of our modern quail program that began over a decade ago. In 2011, we had a management plan that dictated a path to assess whether we had a wild quail population at all, and then steps to either manage that population or take steps to reintroduce if need be. Those surveys did indicate that quail are an extirpated species or locally extinct from Pennsylvania, likely happening in about the 1990s or early 2000s. So we took those latter steps, following our plan, updating that management plan, finding a reintroduction site with our great partners at Letterkenny Army Depot, and then putting in the work to make it happen. Quail habitat is created through management as well as time. We've been managing habitat at Letterkenny since 2017 through a variety of different methods. We've touched about 2,700 acres, having had to clear about 2,000 of that of vegetation to create quail habitat, burning over 3,000 acres, some of those being repetitive treatments over time, with over 3,000 acres touched with herbicide, especially important following that overstory removal to manage invasive plants, giving enough time for our native plants to thrive. So with all of that management, we now have habitat on that site to sustain quail. Some of those major components include warm season bunch and clump grasses to provide nesting cover. We have that, finding that our little blue stem has taken off with help in a lot of those areas, meeting those needs, as well as a number of other native plant species, native grasses. We have our forbs and legumes that provide brood habitat as well as food. We have our shrubby woody cover that provides protection from both the elements and predators, all of which making up what we need. We not only know that ourselves, but we've made sure to ask outside experts throughout the course of this project. Back when Tom Keller was at the reins, he sought outside opinions while creating the plan. And in 2022, we had a small group of experts conduct an in-depth habitat assessment. We have followed their recommendations, including reassessing and going forth with our translocation in 2024. In 2023, we brought the National Bobwhite and Grasslands Initiative Technical Committee. We had about 65 folks from around the country who exclaimed that we were in fact ready. My opinions were validated, and here we are moving forward. So now that we have the habitat, we know that habitat is ready. Wild bobwhite are required to establish this population. Now we're sourcing wild birds from 3 different sites, following best knowledge. Tom kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. You want to source animals from sites that are as similar in climate, similar in vegetation communities, as well as predator communities, and then be as close as possible to reduce travel time and therefore stress to those birds. Since we are at the northern portion of Bobwhite's range, which you can see in those purple shades on that map, There's not there's not many sites that are very close to us that have enough bobwhite to act as that source. So we are sourcing from 3 different locations to meet those needs. Fort Barfoot in Virginia is our closest. We'll be sourcing from about up to 25 birds from there. They are our closest site with, most similar climate, vegetation, predator communities, and the closest that we could find to reduce that travel time. Fort Knox being our second closest, also along that same latitudinal band, but a little bit further drive. From that site especially, it was important for them that we source from an area that was not accessible to their sports people. So we did follow that. Also important to note that we have a great DOD to DOD relationship between those, Fort Barfoot, Knox, and Letterkenny all being military properties. And then our third site being from Tall Timbers down there in North Florida. Although they are the least similar, they have higher density of quail to be able to give. And through that, we can meet our need to get enough birds to reestablish, as well as similar as possible for most of our bobwhite. So once we bring these birds back here in a couple months, we're not just dropping them and walking away. We will be continuing to monitor and study these birds. We are working with the University of Delaware. We have 2 master's students, one of which is studying, focused on the quail reintroduction. We'll be banding every bird that is brought here, as well as a proportion of them will receive radio collars. We're using a system, a grid system, to track these birds. So you can kind of see on the right there all those red dots on that map. Those are all a small node, an electronic device that will pick up the signal strength and direction from each of those collared birds as a way to create GPS-like data on an animal that's simply too small to carry a conventional GPS unit. This technology also allows us to leverage our ability to expand on what we study there. So we've done all this great habitat work to benefit shrubland, grassland species, meeting quail's need, but also meeting a lot of other needs for declining grassland, shrubland species. So we have our second student that will be studying those species on the site. And this project couldn't be possible without the help of all of our partners, especially Letterkenny, Army Depot, Pheasants Forever, Tall Timbers, Fort Knox, Fort Barfoot, some of our source sites there, as well as those from the regions, other bureaus, to especially things like burning. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.